The United Nations has decided to extend a round of Syria talks till December 15. The United Nations mediator, Staffan de Mistura, has said that the talks will focus on a new constitution and fresh elections, which will be supervised by the United Nations.
Thinking about is actually allowing any delegation, the government will do so, to actually return home, consult, refresh, and come back next week around Tuesday in order to retake again the same round of discussion so that we go through the 12 points, the constitutional process and the election aspect, and do so until the 15th of December.
Mistura is talking to delegations from Syrian government and opposition separately. In the past, the opposition has always put a precondition to any peace talks that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad must step down. Assad's delegation has always refused to discuss this issue. This time around, however, Mistura said that the issue of presidency has not come up yet.
On both sides, regarding the atmosphere, as far as I can see, particularly comparing to the past, was professional and serious on both sides. Regarding the biggest obstacle, trust. We have not discussed the issue of presidency. We have been discussing the 12 principles, and you will see they are of a broad nature, but they have an impact on everything in the future constitution. And we have started addressing the issue about how to proceed on a new constitution. So that issue has not even come up.
Joining me live to discuss on this is our senior international correspondent, Daniele Pagani. Daniele, good morning. These peace talks have been long delayed, and if so, they commence in December first week. Do you think they will achieve anything?
Hard to say. What I can say is that definitely deciding that the talk needs to go until the 15th of December was a good choice. It's a very delicate negotiations. You have in the same building people who have been fighting each other for 7 years and completely outside the rules of war laws. Therefore, it's very difficult to get them to talk. It's an indirect negotiation for the moment, meaning that the Syrian presidency is in the one room and the rebels in another room. They never meet each other. So time is very much needed. I would say that this is the 8th time that these participants sit in Geneva. Nothing has been achieved before. During these negotiations, still the Syrian army is shelling rebel position in the eastern side of Damascus called the Eastern Ghouta, which is under siege and is facing humanitarian crisis. So obviously this is not exactly an auspicious way to start negotiations. Nevertheless, it's the 7th year of the Syrian civil war. Rebels on the ground, anti-Assad rebels on the ground are tired, injured, they are facing mounting troubles. The Islamic State has been defeated. Definitely the Syrian troops have the upper hand in Syria, so it's time to negotiate. We will see. The fact is that the presidency of Bashar al-Assad is the main bone of contention, and it has not been touched yet. And this will be where the negotiations will eventually crash.
Also, Daniele, given the kind of time that has gone by, there has been a humanitarian crisis in the country for so long. Do you think both the UN envoys from Syria as well as the United Nations delegates will be able to sit down this time around and finally find a solution?
Well, this depends very much on the participants. I think that one thing that must be absolutely adamant is that there must be a full ceasefire, total full ceasefire during the negotiations. The Eastern Ghouta area of Damascus, where 500,000 people live and face a tremendous humanitarian crisis, needs to be open to humanitarian corridors during these peace talks. The UN needs to be allowed to enter these areas with doctors, food, reliefs, because the situation of emergency is desperate. So this can be a good way. Well, the rebels on their hand needs to absolutely respect the ceasefire. The problem is that in these territories the rebels are not united, they are not a united front, so it can be that part of them agree to the ceasefire and part of them, for instance, seize the humanitarian convoys of the United Nations to use whatever they have for themselves. So it's a very, very delicate situation. It's perhaps one of the most difficult negotiations the United Nations faces in at least 20 years, maybe from the Kosovo crisis.
Right, thank you, Daniele, for joining us on the programme.